The Alcoholic Tuesday tour. I know it was Tuesday because my 40th birthday was on a Wednesday. So I suggested to a couple of very close friends who are also very heavy drinkers that we try and do all of the Sam Smith's pubs in central London on this Tuesday. Now, Sam Smith's is a northern brewery and they opened a lot in the city of London on the West End of London, around Soho. So we decided to try and do them all. It sounds like an impossible task and I think we failed. However, it's just a story looking back at how much I was drinking really, and how I managed to get myself into such a mess in a way, I suppose, later on in life. But we started off early in the morning. This is before pubs opened early, at 11 o'clock in the city of London, in a pub called the Golden Fleece. It's on in EC4, Cheapside, just near the Bank of England. Now, the reason we went to Sam Smith's pubs is because we weren't rich by any means, weren't particularly well off, but they used to do quite a cheap range of beers, for London prices anyway. And I used to drink this Ingerbrow lager or Ingerbrow Pils, which is about close to 6%. So bear in mind that just going to central London, I had a couple of cans before I left, I think. I had nothing to eat. And we started drinking. As soon as we met up, it was, it's like with mates. I've seen you for a while, a bit of a laugh. About 3 or 4 of these pints in this Golden Fleece. And then we moved on to the Underground station. We went into Soho and got off at Oxford Circus. I remember it so well, even though it's 20 years ago, because it was my birthday coming up, you see. So we went from there, walked down from Oxford Circus, past a couple of other pubs, which weren't Sam Smith's, but we thought we'd pop in there anyway. I was just trying to keep tabs on really how much I was drinking at the time. I must have had a massive amount that day. Probably the most I've ever drunk in one day. Now, my birthday's February, so it was pretty cold. So all these pubs nice and warm, quite busy at lunchtime. London pubs tend to be busier at lunchtime than at night, really. Later on at night, they tend to fizzle out with, people go in a bit earlier, between 5 and 7, that sort of thing. And a few there. And we were mindful of this closing at 3 in those days. But I knew a landlord of a pub, another Sam Smith's pub called the Red Lion, which was on Kingly Street, which was next to Carnaby Street. So I had a few in there. And I got to about 2:45, and he said, "Where are you going next?" And I thought, well, we can't really go anywhere else because they're all going to be closed, so we'll just stop here. So I stayed there for a few more, just me and the two lads. I was going to call them Bob and Bob, the two Bobs, Bob 1, Bob 2, and myself. Had a few in there, and then eventually I was so hungry. I'll never forget this. He made some toasted cheese sandwiches. I don't know where you got the old toaster machine from. From there, 5 o'clock, we then wandered into Soho, and I can't remember exactly where we went from the Red Line onwards, but we drank all day. Now, I had a very high tolerance, and so did Bob and Bob, but younger Bob wasn't as clued up as me and the other lad. So he sort of fizzled away, as it were, to nothing about 8 o'clock. Ben and I had been drinking for 9 hours, quite quickly. These lads were big drinkers. So, but eventually I think we had a Chinese meal and we kept drinking. The two of us, me and old Bob, and went to this club. It was a strange nightclub called Rheingold, just off Oxford Street. It tended to be frequented by older women, to be honest. And I had this band playing of people who must have been in their 80s. It wasn't a band, it was more like a small orchestra. And it was a very strange club. They did good beers in this, went in there, had all these quite unusual lagers and whatnot. So I thought, I'm going to get home at some point. Obviously, the last underground had gone. And then Bob suggested about 4 o'clock in the morning, let's go back to his place. And he had this little flat thing. Went back in there and he had loads of cans of lager in there. So it's past the point of no return by a long shot here. I'd contacted my wife and said I couldn't get back because of some incident. Or she didn't believe me. And I stayed in this flat thing he had. It was not a flat, it was like a bed sit, smaller than that. and we just drank cans all night. In the morning, this is my 40th birthday, by the way. I think we had pages then. There was no mobile phones. I got a page, page messages all night from my wife, ex-wife, obviously, and you know where you, what's happened. You've been in an accident. That was just a cover story for like, I know where you are. If I'd been in an accident, I should have known. However, went from there, and then we went back to the Red Lion again at 11 o'clock. So I've been in for 24 hours. All I've done is clean my teeth, I think, at Bob's place, and went out again on the drink all day again. Now, what I'm trying to highlight here is when you're in the throes of active addiction and you're pretty physically fit, you more or less forget about what you're drinking. And you can consume so much alcohol that you don't realise what dangerous because you still feel quite good at that point. So I do this 1, 2, 3, 4 stages of alcoholism. I think we're about between stage 2 and stage 3 where you're drinking heavily. You're not that worried about what it's going to do to you because it hasn't done anything yet. So eventually got home about midnight the next day. So it's roughly 36 hours of drinking. Now what a waste of time, what a waste of money, the domestics had caused, all this sort of thing. At the time looking back, we probably had a good day and a good night, to be fair. But it's not something I want to reflect on and think, oh, you know, I've done really good, made a really good job in my life there. I've done something wonderful. But at the time, especially when you're with friends, you get, I'm easily led, as my mother used to say. It's a bit of an excuse, that, because I probably led them as well. When you get into a company with people and they're all heavy drinkers, you tend to do that, don't you? I think you drink more when you're with somebody, but other people will argue you drink more in the house. I don't. When you're out and about, you're in a company and you buy rounds and that sort of thing. But the actual consumption of alcohol, people have asked me on the channel how much was I drinking. I think I could drink 20 pints a day without a problem and still get home okay, still get a bit okay, never cause any problems, and never get arrested, never get into any trouble, never cause anybody else any trouble that I know of. And still be quite pleasant. But what it's doing to your body, you're going to end up with an early death, which nearly happened to me. I'm very lucky to be here because I was ill for a long time. That I didn't really put down alcohol. I was just thought with me getting older, feeling a bit groggy, feeling a bit sick of life, whatever it was. But I wasn't. I was getting more ill with alcohol, and I stopped and started and relapsed and all this sort of thing. But if you get into this mad point where you're drinking far too much, and a lot of you will be. I know what it's like. I've been there. I did a pub yesterday because it's the start of the silly season already, isn't it? Where people are starting to go out in groups from work and all this sort of thing. The amount of alcohol will be consumed this year would be colossal. It is every year at this time because it's Christmas time and holiday time and that sort of thing. But if you're drinking this sort of quantity, you've got to sort of look at yourself and think, you pull yourself back. I don't know why. Nobody ever said to me, it was only my ex-wife, I said, you're drinking too much, and my parents and family, but you just ignore them, don't you? You need somebody to get a grip of you, or you get a grip of yourself and say, look, this is madness. The amount of money you spend, look what you could do with your life. If you're drinking a lot, think about the future, thinking about what harm you're doing. You've got no life when you're drinking that much. I mean, it was a great day and a great night, but it took me 3 days to get over that. And that was only because I had a few drinks in the morning trying to help me back to normal. Then about a week off work, which I'd planned anyway for this 40th birthday. But the whole thing was ruined all through alcohol. You've got to try and focus. I'm helping a few people at the moment who just can't stop. Now, I had a fear of not stopping because I'd had a previous seizure. And you can't just stop if you've got serious problems or you're dependent on it. If you stop suddenly, then you will have a seizure. The chances are you could have a seizure, sorry. But the withdrawals are horrendous. The shakes, the sweats, the feeling of being, feel nauseous, you feel dizzy, you're not controlling yourself, you're not eating properly, you're not getting the fluid into your body, your whole digestive system collapses. Lots of problems with alcohol. It affects every organ in your body in some way. And more especially, I've noticed people are mentioning to me about the mental health side of things, which was never really explored with me until I told them I felt suicidal. But that was only very brief, and that's past years and years ago now. But you get feelings of desperation as well, and depression, which needs to be looked at. But if you're drinking, you're enjoying it, get it under control at least. Because some people won't want to stop. It's a big ask saying to somebody, you must stop for life, because emotionally it's like, wow, never drink again. Take it one day at a time. Cut down by a pint a day and focus on getting yourself well again, because Being sober again is an amazing experience. And being able to have a second life. And people say, no, you're a bit down on these channels. I do it for a reason. I'm actually an extremely happy person. Any of my friends will tell you that. But this is good messages and so important to me because I've lost friends. I lost people who I knew in hospital when I was really ill, all because of alcohol and its associated issues. It's not just the liver, it's the pancreas, the kidneys can be affected, your blood can be affected. You've got problems with your heart, with strokes, all this sort of thing, blood pressure issues where people are put on blood pressure tablets for the rest of their life in their early 30s because they've been drinking too much. I know one guy who's got pancreatitis, he had pancreatitis twice. Intensive care twice. He takes 17 tablets a day to survive. And he goes out drinking every day. What does that tell you? The power of addiction or is it just stupidity? I don't know. If you enjoy the channel or you benefit from it, please subscribe and share it to anybody who may be struggling. I've got an ebook out as well, and I'll put the links in there. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Have a great day.